Hello everyone, Matt from Model Minutes here, and welcome back to the workbench for another unboxing. This time, I'm taking a look at this, the Mistercraft Devoitine D.520 C1 in 1/72 scale. So join me as I take a look inside the box and see what this one is like. So on the front, we can see we have our very typical artwork from Mistercraft. Up the top left, 1/72 scale is annotated, and we've got a number of different symbols for the different nations which may be represented included in this boxing. We do have a big old new down the bottom right, but as with all Mistercraft boxing, do take that with a pinch of salt. It's probably not a new kit, it's probably just new to Mistercraft. So on the edge here, we've got some information about the actual kit. It is 110mm in length, 140 in wingspan, and it holds 29 pieces. It does say that there are 5 decal schemes inside, and it was made in the European community. There are some more images here of different paint schemes, which are probably included, and we have an item code of D216 on the edge there. On this edge here, we also have some information telling us that it comes with parts and instructions, but no glue is included. But let's have a look inside the box and see what there is. And as you can probably tell, the box seems bigger than the stuff that's inside because it's all rattling around. So let's take a look. Easier said than done. There we go. Yeah, so whilst the box is a bit big, there's lots of free space in there. You can see that we have got our parts in a bag, but I'll look at them in a minute. We'll have a quick look at the instructions. The instructions are printed in colour. We have got a bit of history about the Devoitine down here, and it is actually for the D520, so that's a start. Opening it up, this just seems to keep on going. So we've got a sprue map, which tells you where the different parts are located. And then we can progress with the build. So actually the instructions don't look too overly complicated. They look relatively laid out for a Mistercraft kit. Yeah, so we assemble our propeller, our fuselage halves go together, landing gear gets joined together at steps 3 and 4. We can add our pilot. Apparently there's a pilot included. And then we add our chair, the wing surfaces, the fuselage and the tail. Then we add our canopy and the propeller and the engine cowling. Sorry, not the cowling, the exhausts. And then we install our landing gear. And it doesn't seem to make reference that you can have the landing gear raised, but I think you might be able to with a little bit of modification. And then flipping over onto the back, we've got all of our painting schemes, but they're all in colour, which is really good. I love to see it in colour. I would take these with a little bit of a pinch of salt. They aren't always like as accurate as you might think they would be. For example, it might make reference to decals, which you don't get included. And we'll have a look for that as we go through. As well, sometimes I know there's a lot of paint colors here, but sometimes they'll list them like the wrong colors. So like, I mean, we've got 2 C's here for some reason. I don't know why I've got 2 C's next to the C. Yeah, so sometimes you just get a bit confused. Sometimes they have the same color listed twice, or they mislabel something. So just keep an eye out. Use these as a guide and not like sort of verbatim instructions. So how many painting instructions have we got? We've got 1, which is French. We've got a 2nd, which is German. A 3rd, which is Italian, I believe. A 4th here, which is Bulgarian. And a 5th, there's a number 5, there's a number 6. So I think they're basically another Bulgarian one, but with a variation. And number 6 is like another French one, just with a different tail number on it. So let's have a look at what else we had in the box. We've got our decals. You can see that I've already had this open, and I have at some point made some notes about what different paint colors I potentially have in the stash that I could do this with, but I actually did, bearing in mind I anticipated this being a build, I went and bought a specific paint set. So I did actually go and buy this thanks to my channel members, the support of the people who are on screen at the moment. Their extra support allows me to go and buy extra products to try out. So I've got this Vallejo model air color set, which comes with all the sort of French colors that might be needed for the early sort of French aircraft. I don't really do a great deal of French aircraft, so I thought I'd get something special to do them with. Anyway, so we go back to the kit, and we were looking at the decals. So the decals are on the white sheets. I find the white sheet transfers, they tend to be thinner. If you get blue sheets, they tend to be thicker. But the problem with them on both sheets is that you may experience them tearing, which is something I experienced recently when I did one of their F-86s. So just be aware of that. I always try and protect these with some microscale liquid decal film. But if you're not, if you're sort of new to Mistercraft, just be aware that their transfers may tear or disintegrate when they are put into water. One of the problems I have with Mistercraft decals as well is that you very much have to play hunt the decal. So like on this side, you can see we've got lots of the French transfers, but you also, if you look at the painting instructions, we need the number 6, and the number 6 is on the other sheet as well. So you are going to be going a bit backwards and forwards trying to find all the relevant ones. I think also it might be worth noting that the decals are not numbered, even though they're numbered on the painting instructions, which makes it a little bit more difficult to figure out what you're doing. It looks as though on the French version, we should have some stripes for the wings, upper and lower. But as you can see, the only stripes we've got included is this weird like L-shaped one here, which I think might be for going underneath the number 6, but I don't know. Yeah, it's all just a bit weird, isn't it? Like they've done a bit of the work for you, but you might have to do other work as well. Like part of me thinks it might just be worth getting like an aftermarket set of decals for the kit and then doing it that way. That might be the most sensible option. But we'll have to see how time and money allows. So yeah, 2 sets of decals. They look to be printed to a relatively good quality, but as mentioned, rips and tears are quite prone with Mistercraft transfers, which I experienced recently. So this is the sort of drop tanks from the F-86. These were on the blue sheets, and you can see it just hasn't stuck, and it's been like a month now, and they just haven't stuck down. The ones on the white sheet here, the cross for the German, it split, and I've had to overlay it. It conformed better, but I mean, not great. So yeah, Mistercraft decals always a little disappointing, but we'll put that to one side for now, and we'll have a look at the parts. So unusually they come in a plastic bag, which is nice to see because it just means that we don't have everything sort of loose rolling around. You can see there is something loose in there, which is the clear part, but we'll open the bag and we'll have a look. Oh, my pilot's come off. Well, there is a pilot, but I wonder if he was loose to start with. So there's the pilot. He is a very crude looking guy, isn't he? He's looking somewhat questionable. I mean, I have seen worse, but I have also seen a lot better. I might use him just for the sake of using him. Clear parts then, we get 3 on this little sprue. A bit crude, a bit flashy. Panel or sort of lines, the framework is present, a little bit raised, a bit scuff, a few scuffs on there. Plastic isn't amazing, it's not overly crystal clear, but I have seen way worse. And then we come on to our parts. This is a very light grey, almost bordering on white. We have our lower wing surfaces. The detail on that isn't too bad. We have mostly raised panel lines, but there are a little few recessed details and even a few hints of other surface textures as well. On the fuselage halves, again, we have the same sort of level of detail, a bit of flash. The plastic is quite thin. It's not as chalky as I've experienced from Mistercraft before, so it must be a slightly different blend. But we have got some lovely bits of flash, which is just free sort of plastic, isn't it? It just pushes the weight of the model up. On the inside of the fuselage, we've got some ejector pin marks, but no detail. And other than that, I think we can see all the other components here. A little bit crude. Tail surfaces, wheels, cockpit chair, antenna and landing gear. Not the most sort of refined looking kits. Landing gear covers, prop sort of components, and then upper wing components here. Again, raised panel lines on there. Objectively, this looks like it will be a buildable model, but as you can see, there's quite a lot of flash in some of these parts which will need cleaning up in order to get it looking kind of presentable. And that is pretty much it. So we had one sprue of sort of, yeah, okay. I mean, you're going to have to do a bit of work to get it looking good. But yeah, these are molded to an acceptable quality. You could use them, but you're going to have to put a bit of time in to get them looking a bit more presentable. We had a pilot, which is a bit of a blob. Canopy parts, they look to be okay, but they are suffering from flash and a few scuffs, and it's not, the tool doesn't look like it's been particularly looked after. Instructions should be used as a guide. They're printed in color, which is really helpful, but I don't think everything in the instructions sort of correlates to what you've got in the kit, basically, especially given that we've got some references to transfers that should be included and used, but I can't find them on the two decal sheets we've got here. Decal sheets generally look printing wise to be kind of acceptable, but with my previous experience of these kind of transfers from Mistercraft, I have my reservations about how usable they're going to be. Well, all of that came contained within a box which was suitably illustrated and looked to be, you know, it's not bad. It's not bad artwork. I definitely could not do any better. So yeah, that's not too bad. But you might be thinking to yourself, oh, how much would you be looking at paying for this kit if you fancied getting one of these? And that would be €12.99 if the Mistercraft website is to be believed, which if we convert that to GBP is about £10.76, so just call it shy of 11. I don't believe I paid that for this. I think it was cheaper. I may have paid like £8. I can't remember. It was a while ago that I bought this, or maybe about £8. But it's definitely not worth more than £10. You know, given the quality of what we've seen in the box, you can get much newer model kits which have a much better quality for around the same price. And speaking of the age, as is quite typical for Mistercraft, they rebox other companies' kits or have managed to acquire other companies' kits. So this is a Hella tooling from 1965. So it's no surprise then that this is a relatively old model and has been around for quite some time. It would appear that Hella kind of moved on from this tooling in the 80s and potentially sold it on to Smur, who have then sort of handed it over to Mistercraft for another boxing. So the boxing we have here is a 2016 release, which is probably why it's more difficult to come across now. On the website it did say it was out of stock, so it's probably finished its sort of run. Personally, I bought this one because I think it was quite cheap and I fancied having a go with those new paints that I've picked up. So I'm just going to have a play around with it and not put too much stress on getting it absolutely perfect, especially given the quality that we've got inside the kit. But if you can find one cheap enough and you fancy playing around with it, absolutely fantastic. But don't go into this one expecting a very serious model. Anyways, with that, I think it's probably time to end that one here. Let me know what you thought of my review in the comments below and if my assessment of this kit was fair. As always, quick shout out to my Model Club members for the extra support they give the channel. Don't forget there are other ways to support the channel if you'd like to do so, and full information is underneath the video. The best way to support the channel for free though is by subscribing with notifications turned on so you never miss a modelling upload. Finally though, last thing to say, massive thank you to you for watching this, and I'll catch you on the workbench again next time.